Greg, it doesn't sound like two countries that are about to embark on a trade war, does it?
No, it doesn't, but the details are maybe significant. I'm not sure how all the details will be ironed out, but no, it does sound encouraging. And just to add to what Kevin said, I think a key factor here may be the farmers in the Midwest. I think Trump is becoming more conciliatory because he's hearing from Republicans in the Farm Belt that they could have a rough election. So I think that's a factor.
So, Greg, I'm trying to understand if this was ever really about national security, because if it's about national security, by all means, everything should stay in place on ZTE. And if it's about politics, then we really need to think differently about what kind of deal we're going to get with the Chinese.
Well, you know, it depends, John, on who you talk to. You could say people who are real experts on this do think it's about national security, that the Chinese steal everything, that they take all of our technology inventions. So that is national security, but there's politics. At the end of the day, with Donald J. Trump, it's the reality show. One day we got a deal, next day we don't have a deal. We're going to go through this for the next 2 or 3 weeks, not knowing for sure how things are going to wind up on Nafta and China.
Greg, for investors, you have to strip out the political past and just focus on what's happening. You'd have to say that NAFTA's looking pretty decent. They're going to get something done, you would assume. That's the base case of many people. And on the issue of China and the United States, this doesn't look like it's escalating to me. If anything, it looks like both countries are backing off.
I agree with you on China. I'll push back a little bit, John, on Nafta. They're not close to a deal. Maybe by the end of this week they can have an agreement in principle. Even that, I have my doubts. This might stretch out later into the spring. So, again, everything sort of is amorphous. It looks a little better this morning than it has for the last few weeks. But, man, I tell you, the details still are going to be daunting.
Well, let's talk about the details, Greg. The base case for you, what kind of a deal do you think the Chinese and the United States can strike through the week and over the next several months as they continue to negotiate?
Well, one will be accessed by U.S. companies, insurance companies, financial companies. Another part, clearly, as I mentioned, will be agricultural products. The Chinese want to get back into the U.S. technology sector. I mean, there's a lot of big provisions that still have yet to be ironed out.
I do just want to get your thoughts on the foreign policy here, Greg. I thought it was interesting that the Iranians went over to China looking effectively for help over sanctions. We know the Chinese role in putting the pressure on North Korea as well. How important is it, do you think, for the United States to keep China on side to achieve two big foreign policy goals? Things in the Middle East with Iran and then things in Asia with North Korea.
I think it's very important in Asia. With Iran, I would argue, John, that the big variable in this narrative is the Israelis. I think the Israelis have gotten a green light from the Trump administration to go after the Iranian encampments in Syria. I think there's going to be more conflict ahead between the Iranians and the Israelis.